Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Fallout Friday is upon us again. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and if you're in the same boat, then stick with it and hit that big red button and let's get stuck in. So first things first, we'll have a quick look around. I've used the Scrap That Settlement mod, which is formerly Scrap Skeletons and Ghouls and such like, to clean this place out, which is why we've got the flickering there. But it's pulled out a lot of the rubbish and has a load more to pull out as well, and gives us a lot more freedom to make this place look the way I want it, rather than just like a reinforced trash heap, which was the alternative and why I didn't do it before. So I've seen other people have a go at this, and a lot of them have just done much the same thing I did at County Crossing, which is build what you want to reinforce the place with and then glitch the whole thing in with a concrete pillar in one go. Well, it can be done that way. It's fiddly as hell, particularly because this building's so complicated, and it takes absolutely ages, and it's also a slightly odd shape, which is a bit of a nightmare. But I ended up giving up on that plan and moved on to doing it a section at a time, which was a lot easier, if still fiddly and time consuming. So, first things first is basically to put the floors in first. A big piece of advice I would give is start with the upstairs, so then when you move downstairs all you've got to do is plug the gaps. Well, in this case I'm actually going to plug one of the gaps downstairs before I do up the upper floor, just because it'll give me a guideline for where the wall's actually going to sit, so I can see what I'm doing a little better. You'll see in just a sec I've actually already done the ground floor, but forgot to record that. It's a bit of a running theme with this one. So I'll show you, it's the same technique as I used upstairs, but we'll see in just a moment. So we've got this wall in. Only drawback with doing it from the inside like this is that it doesn't sit snugly with the base of the wall on the outside, but it does. It also sticks up a little high as well, to be fair. It does provide a guideline, as I say, which makes life a lot easier when it comes to seeing if you've got the floor upstairs straight. Not such a problem downstairs, because there's only so much we can actually scrap. You can see a few bits on the right there that just won't go. It makes it a lot easier, in a way, although less complete, but you know, what can we do? It is what it is. So my plan for this place is to turn it into a player home, and I'm actually going to expand out and build separate homes for most of the companions as well here. Try and make it sort of a player village, I suppose, in a way. So I wanted it to be less like I've just shored the house up, more like it's fully renovated, which is why I've used the mods, and why I've been waiting for them as well, so I'm really pleased I can do that now. So, as you can see, we're just lifting the floor up, positioning the pillar underneath, because then we get the right height, especially as we've got the floor beneath the ground floor in already. With the ground floor you can just glitch the first piece in, much like this, and then just snap to, which is what we're going to do upstairs. Fortunately this doesn't end up quite straight, as you'll see briefly when we're up there, if you look along the line of the wall. But I took it apart, redid it, and you'll see the results as well. So position this in, using that edge as a guideline. You can see, nice and neat-ish, and everything just snaps to it. I'm using barn pieces here because I wanted to stick with the wood, and the extra half height matches the height of the floors much better than the other ones do. The regular stuff's a bit more awkward. But you can see, you've got everything lined up. A couple of those aren't quite in the right position, but, you know, we'll live with it. This hole is a bit of a problem though. That lump of former floor is unscrappable, certainly at the moment anyway, so I can't block that hole up because it sticks up too high. But I'll cover it over with rugs or something and we'll make do. So plan A here was to put the half-height walls in and then use the half-height glass walls from the warehouse tab, the greenhouse walls, to make sure there's plenty of light on this side of the house. But I didn't really like the look of it, so in the end I just went straight for the full greenhouse wall, which doesn't quite fit with the rest of the wood and stuff, but I can live with it. It looks alright. This is where we discover the drawbacks to putting the wall in first as a guideline though. As you can see, they're getting in the way. There's that scrap that settlement mod kicking in again. I pulled out a lot of bits like this, which I didn't really want to do, but I think it's been worth it in the end. So we'll pull these couple of pieces out in a minute and just sit them straight on the floor. It makes everything a lot tidier, and it fits in better proportion with the height of your character as well, so you can see out the window much more clearly. So there we go. So I've still got the same problem. We'll whip those out. After that, as neat as you like. The big thing about this is, once you've positioned that first one in, make sure you get it right, and then you can literally just snap everything to it. It'll even snap through the existing house walls if you've got it right. There are limitations to that, but it's by far and away the easiest way of doing it. And so I've forgotten to record a chunk. I needed to point that out now because it's what I've done around the rest of the building as well. You'll see the back walls are all going in a moment, or have gone in rather. But as you can see from this, if you've got the right pieces in and got the build order right, which is basically this principle here, it will just slot neatly into place. Doing it section by section has the advantage of being able to customise it a little more. And things have a tendency to wind up out of sync a little bit if you don't, so you can kind of compensate for that. As I mentioned before, the house is a bit of an odd size, but of an odd shape, which using the warehouse pieces and barn pieces in particular causes one problem. The only half-width walls we have are smashed to bits, they've got massive holes in them and they don't snap together. So you can't really plug the gaps all that well. So rather than put an extra half floor on, just try and line the walls up, at least in this corner. What I'm doing is adding what was initially going to be a balcony, but I realised on down the line that there was no bathroom in the place, so it's going to become a bathroom. But we're taking that half-sized section and basically doubling it up using the balcony idea. As you can see, the wall's already sticking off there. But this brings it much closer to being the right size. There's a little fiddling around to get it right. Here's the double concrete pillar there to get the height we need. And it allows you to basically build a room that hangs off the side, which is not ideal, not quite as neat as I'd like, but it solves the problem of massive holes in the wall, which I really didn't want. It's kind of the whole point of reinforcing this place, is to fill up the holes. So we'll finagle that into place, get lost on the way to go and double check it. Yeah, that chunk of floor is annoying as well, but what can you do? There we go, neat and tidy. And I will, later on down the line, shore up that space. My initial plan, as I say, was a balcony, which is why I put this internal wall on. You see, things snap quite nicely to it. I end up using this same principle just to wrap the walls around it. Did have to do a little bit of gap plugging, but something of a recurring theme when you're doing something as complex as this building. So that doesn't quite match up with the other side. Actually wound up having it the same result, but the other way around with the glass window on this side. For the moment, I wanted them to match up a bit more. Because I hadn't actually decided on the bathroom at this stage. So there we go, neat and tidy. So we skipped on a little bit, and I've finished off the walls. And as I say, it's the same principle, just position one in and snap in until it stops working. The entire back wall went in just fine. This back right corner, so I left here, because we have the same issue we had in the where the bathroom's going to be, there's the gap there. So I just glitched in the windows, select all, move the first one in, snap it all together, nice and neat. And then I'll just plug that gap up manually. With the extra half wall on the top though, it allows you to get over some of the pieces of the back wall that you can't scrap. and but it does present another problem when you come to put the roof on, being that the roofs are only full size, there's no half width ones. So I ended up just putting an extra floor in there and moving those extra half walls to the edge of the floor, which kind of creates a bit of a ledge, but as you'll see in a minute. But it works. It looks reasonably neat and tidy when I'm done. So this is the basic principle we're going to use for pretty much all of the plug in the gaps. Just select it all, using a rug here because it will sit flush with the floor, and then use a concrete pillar to do the same thing and just put another one on the top of it. Actually, to be fair, I don't think I used this piece in the end. I used a balcony railing because the gap shrinks down once I've put the roof in, so you can see there. I'll actually show you the roof in a minute because I had to change it. That gap was slightly annoying, but I think I worked around it. As you can see, we've got the floor on the windows there on the right, and then the half wall moved in just to form a roof over the half size section. So I was trying to put the internal walls in, and as much as I love the rafters here, they tend to cause problems. They just get in the way, so the roof came out and the fresh one went in. Which did make life a bit easier in the sense that I forgot to record putting the roof on as well. Yeah, I just finished work when I did most of this. It was like 7 in the morning, I'd done night shifts, so I wasn't with it really. But as you can see, as long as you've got the walls in position correctly first, it's simple as just snapping it in. All about build order with the barn and warehouse pieces. So we're going to go and have a start on the internal walls now. I've actually used these blue walls here, but I've ended up changing them out for white ones because it just blends with the colour of the rest of the building a bit better, even though the woodwork's actually blue on the building. The colours just don't match up well enough for me. It looked too severe, too sharp. I had an interesting institute vibe, but it wasn't what I was going for. You can see, just select all and move it into place. And there are limits to this, but it does work well. Once the roof's in, it's easy enough to snap those half-height walls along the length of the building as well, which is now what we're snapping the internal walls to. See them up the top in a moment. There you go, just in the top edge there. And having those in place made it a lot easier to divide right along that back edge. So pull these out because we're just getting in the way. That one won't go either. But I don't really mind that too much because I do still want some of the original sort of character of the building there. And this does allow me to do that. I mean, let's face it, I could have just built a place from scratch, but I really wanted to use this one. I kind of like that it's just across the water a bit from the castle, so I'm going to work that one in so the Minuteman General's got an easy way to nip across to the castle when he wants to. So we'll figure this bit out and position this internal wall in, and again, you see it just, once the first wall's in, you can just snap straight to it. More or less anyway. It does require a little bit of ingenuity on occasion, but it works. This one, for example, won't line up perfectly. The same's true of the door, we'll do in a moment, which is not ideal, but on the other hand, in a way it kind of helps it be a bit more immersive, because we are, after all, repairing a bombed out house. We don't exactly have full building tools and contractors available to us. So that one snapped in quite nicely. That one decided to be temperamental, but we moved it okay. Which does, as I say, leave us with our bottom section at a slight cockeyed angle. But try and see if I can make it into a feature or something when I do the decoration. This door took a lot of fiddling to get in, so I ended up moving around the back and just glitching it in from this side. Which again, it's not quite neat because of the existing walls that I'm not sure if I can scrap or not. I don't think I can. But the end result's okay, especially as this just snaps on. It kind of smooths off that edge a little bit. And yep, there's the end result. And the same thing on the other side with this one. I did try it for all sorts of angles, that initial door, but that's the best result. Surprisingly, the big hole in the floor didn't actually cause too many problems. There we go, just position that in. I've got a little bit of a hole, but I can live with that. And it will lighten up in a moment. This little section here is a bit of a nightmare, because even though you scrap everything around it, that broken section of floor on top of the door won't go. And it causes problems when you're putting roofs on, it causes problems when you're trying to put internal walls in. It's just a right pain in the neck. So what I ended up doing, as you can see, it's just not going to happen. What I ended up doing was taking one of the wood walls, one of these added by the Unlock Settlement Objects mod, speak properly, and just positioning that in, which obviously doesn't look quite right, but we'll just have to plug the gap around it. So it leaves it with a bit of a rustic edge, but it's a case of making do with what you can and doing the best of what's available. But the gap plugs up okay, so and so it's those half-high railings, again added by the mod, really good, because they don't snap to anything, so they're very easy to glitch together. And so they have soft edges, one of my favourite YouTubers would say. So it's very easy to just position everything in, just like that. And those plain chuck railings that are solid boards like that are absolutely brilliant for the job as well. So, moving on to plugging a couple of gaps downstairs, which are a little out of order, but you know. Dead simple, select tool, move it in. I had to do it a couple of times to make sure it didn't stick out too much, but it does work. So this one, I did initially try and move both wall halves in at once, like I did in the first place, but now the floors are in, it just didn't want to cooperate, particularly with that bit of reinforcement on the right there. But again, it's back to the old get as close as you can and then bung up the gaps standby. The end result actually works pretty well. I wound up changing the wall out for a window in the end, because it winds up quite dingy in here. But the same principle applies and it looks pretty good. So, interesting thing about these little repair jobs, when you first arrive here, you may notice there's a settler's corpse just around the left of the building from here, and a few other bits and pieces knocking around, so somebody's obviously somehow got out to the island, so either survived the swim or hasn't, because the radiation's got them when they've got here. That would explain why they're dead, I suppose. And you sort of see bits of repair that they've done. Just adds a little bit of interesting history to it, I think. It does have the drawback that it makes it harder to repair, but you know, what can you do? That's kind of cool. So there we go. Nice and solid. Back to our old favourite railing. Plug up that last bit of the gap. Neat as. So I'd use the same principle with the pillar there, just to move this wall in on the end. There's a very small gap between the bit of rubbish that you can't scrap outside the wall and the edge of the floor, so you can just about get the pillar in there if you've got close enough. And as it turned out, glitching this piece in was completely unnecessary, because it just snaps in, and it's a lot more neat when it does it. There you go, that's me figuring it out. You can see a bit more of it inside, but it looks good, I think. Now I'll just plug up that little gap in the top corner. I'm really pleased with how this little effort worked out, because it matches the existing boards that a previous settler has left behind. I'll slide it up and in, and it looks like it was there all along. Yeah, look at that. So I wanted to make this doorway a little less scratty, so check up our line with the warehouse door, barn door I should say, and select all. Use something that hugs the floor so it doesn't float, because you can't sink the pillar in here. That's one of the reasons. Anytime you see me using a rug or a lamppost or anything else to move it in, it's just because the pillar won't sink and I want it level with the floor. The same when I put doors on later. Look at that. So when you're in somewhere like Sanctuary and you're doing it from the outside, you can sink the pillar in, it's a lot easier. But solid floors, which make life very difficult. So, moving doors in. Dead simple to do with the ones from the existing game, the vanilla doors. Just place down any form of door frame, use the junk fence you see in the corner there. Just snap it straight into place and then lift the frame away. And the door will stay floating where it was, and then you can just pillar glitch it in normally. As I say, somewhere like Sanctuary, it's simple. But with this one, again, the concrete pillar won't sink in, so I had to line it up carefully and get it level with the floor, or slightly above the floor I think, at the same time as close as possible, so that when I move the rug up to it, instead of doing that, it goes green. If it goes red, you know instantly you've got it wrong. And then when it goes green like this with the select all, you can just manoeuvre it neat and tidy into place. Make sure you check which way the door opens before you do it, because you'll be really annoyed if you've faffed with it for a while and it opens the wrong way. This one opens inwards, which is what I wanted. But if it came from the other side, it would just open across the balcony there, and that would be really annoying. So this is one of the modded doors, as you see, added by Unlock Settlement Objects. The great thing about these is they don't snap, which is good and bad I suppose. But it does mean you can rug glitch them. So when you take the rug away, most of the objects in this mod have a habit of just vanishing. Like, they don't fly up, they don't stick down, they just disappear. But if you get it right and just use the very, very edge of the rug like this, you have the doormat, which is why I use this one, which I don't normally. You can just leave the mat there, it'll work perfectly, and it just looks like you've got a doormat. Look at that. I was really happy with that. So, I wanted to divide the two halves of the downstairs off, partly because this side of it looks way better than the other side. Much less damage, much less rubbish lying around. So, what was ostensibly the back of the house is now going to become the front, but that's all good. Another one of the doors from Unlock Settlement Objects. Again, it's got nice soft edges, so you can basically build a wall and just slide it straight in if you got it reasonably close. So that's more or less what we're doing here. Because we've got confined space, I put the door in first. Or rather, yeah. Pillar didn't want to play ball here, so I ended up scrapping it and using something else. Sometimes simply scrapping it and replacing it will do the job, but you know. Yeah, anyway. So I moved the first wall in so I could find the position I wanted the edge of the door, put the door in and then just build around it so that it fits. As if you just try and guess it, you'll find it just won't go in because you get the size wrong. Unless you're really, really lucky. But these little half-shack walls, also added by the mod, as you can see, can be rug glitched. And they're really cooperative about it, or at least they were for me. So it's just a case of place it on the rug, pick up the rug, and move it into place. Which made life so much easier. Although I did have a faff with that for a while, but you didn't need to see that. As I say, just simple rug glitching it in. This side room off to the right, you've got a couple of big holes in it, which are mostly filled with rubbish until I scrapped it all. But it does mean it's a nightmare to then block them up with any wood. Once I realised those tall, thin half walls were glitchable with a rug glitch, it made life so much easier. I could just simply slide it in, put it into place, pull the rug out, it popped down ever so slightly. By some miracle it didn't disappear altogether, and it plugged the gap quite nicely. So with this one, as I was saying before, you could see that the edges are really soft, so we can just push a couple of them together to make a longer piece, and then move the whole thing in with the pillar glitch as per. Well, with the select all on the pillar. And it will plug the gap much more neatly if I've been a bit more with it and not sleepy from a night at work, I might have thought to put an extra one on there and do it all in one go, but I didn't. Either way, it slightly clips through the door, but not by enough to cause a problem. Plus it's slightly dingy in here. So as long as I don't overlight it, the fact that the door clips through a little bit won't be a major problem. In fact, it's so little you can't really tell. So, again, using this insanely soft board. You'll see in the room on the other side in a minute that I've fenced off, or walled off, the right hand edge. It follows the... I'm waving at you now, it's not going to help you at all. The wall on the right here, it follows the line of that, at a right angle to the one we're building now, and runs out to the front wall. But I had to use the regular shack walls, because the warehouse pieces are too tall with the upper floor on there. And then I just did the same principle to block up that gap. There you go. That gap that you can see at the top of them. And it looks reasonably neat and tidy. So, onto the tour. As you can see, I've changed out all those blue walls for the white ones, which is a lot easier if you get it right first time, but actually because you can just snap everything in, it wasn't too painful. It looks a lot more natural and it blends a lot more. I also had some issues with the roof, so I put it on an angle on this side and it stops it looking so boxy. I'm quite happy with that. But on the other side, it was just a box, so I tried the same principle, but there's a couple of points where it doesn't want to do it, and one where it just plain won't do it at all. So I left it with two spaced out raised sections and put the little cupola, I suppose it's called? I don't know. On the top instead, just to kind of break up the square boredom of it all. You can see them there now. So without those on the top, it just looked stupid and just stuck up in a way that didn't work at all. So a couple are on the top and it makes the place look a little more interesting, a little more characterful. So in here, because mostly it's trashy as heck, I'm basically going to use it, I think, as a generator room. Because there's not much else I can do with it. And I don't want it to be somewhere I frequent. There you go, that's a rug glitched wall section in there. Because it's not going to be somewhere I really spend any time, so especially with it looking that trashy. So that's where I think I'll be putting my probably fusion core generator. So go and have a take a look at the inside, shall we? Remember how to speak English. That's the finished product on the wall we built. It looks pretty neat, I'm pretty happy with it. A little bit scrappy on the right there, but yeah. Really happy with this one. It's just a straight up boxcar door. I didn't even have to glitch it in, it just moved a little bit of fiddling and it moved straight in. And it still thinks it's on a rail, so it opens. There we go, that's the walls I was talking about rug glitching in. I think I'm going to use this room as an armoury, place for the general to store some weapons and his armour and stuff when he's chilling out at home. Because everybody needs a little bit of downtime now and then. He probably doesn't want to run around with his weapons at all times, especially as they should be reasonably secure. There's that little bit of a gap there that I might have to plug up somehow. That could be challenging. And when I don't forget to take the rugs away. You see I put a window and a half wall, which is the idea I was going to use upstairs but didn't like, but it works quite nicely down here, gives us a bit more light. And I think I'm going to turn this into a crafting area, a workshop, because it doesn't matter then that it's so rough, at least not to my mind. So this room I think will be a kind of sitting room, meeting room, that sort of thing. A sort of public face of the house for when guests come over, it's where you greet them. As this is more the living quarters. Not sure what I'm going to do with the landing. Gonna have to do something. You can see the shack floor and half wall used to create a kind of roof there. Added bonus, that little solution just snaps into place, so you don't even have to fight with it. It's another one of the modded doors. It's the only glass one I could find. I definitely wanted a glass one there. I think I'm going to refer to this as the solarium. Sunroom, I suppose it's supposed to mean. Because it's going to be a kind of living room, sitting room, place that's got lots and lots of daylight. Especially as I'm using the only clear weather mod. Another one of the unlocked settlement object doors, hidden behind a bookcase, which is a bit ridiculous for the bathroom door, but I really wanted to use it for something, and as it turns out, it's one of the largest doors that's still reasonably single-sized, so it hides a lot of the broken wall around it, not so much when you stand in the corner there, but just glitching a door in there normally, it looked really rough compared to the rest of the place, so I didn't want to stick with that. This will probably go on to be the bedroom. I'll decorate it in time for next week, I think. But a few thoughts on that idea. I'll try and smooth things out a bit so it doesn't look quite so mismatched. I think there'll be a limit to how much I can really do there. That will make this the office. As my companion's rather the companion I've romanced is Piper. I'm not going to build her own place, she's going to live with me here. So this will probably be a shared office space for the General to do whatever he needs to do when he's at home, and for Piper to write for her newspaper. And there we go, basically the inside. Have a quick look around the outside in a second. As I say, turning this into a sitting room, I think will look pretty good with it. Especially as it's much neater and tidier than the other half of the house. On this floor at least. You just see the castle over on the far side of the inlet there. So thank you very much for watching as always, hope you found this useful. If you'd like to, hit those wonderful buttons. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook as well, /DarkIronGames.